All right, Shalom, Yasharala. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem, Yahushai Bashem, Rakakudash. As always, Yahweh is the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai is the Son, who the world called Jesus Christ. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and mercy to you, Akim, that are doing the work of Yahweh Bashem, Yahushai, in sincerity and in truth, okay? Now, about a week ago, I did a video on this article RT posted, pretty much saying that the APA is saying that it's bad to be a man. And the article went into pretty much how having masculinity is toxic due to violence and so on and on. It includes being dominant and so on and on, that is toxic to society. Okay, now, like I said in that video, if you want to read the rest of the article, you can go find it, on the internet. But this morning, as I was driving during work on the radio, they were talking about that article. And you have an author, that pretty much came on the radio, and he spoke about the importance of having the father figure in the household, and how that it's very, beneficial to the development of a child. Okay, having their biological father in the household. And pretty much what society is pushing now is the end of the male gender. Okay, they're trying to get rid of masculinity, and pushing the vibration of everything being feminine, man. Okay, and this goes to show you that we're living in the end, because the scriptures talks about how that the Lord hath created a new thing, that a woman should compass a man. And we're living in a society right now where women are over men. But I'm gonna, I took pretty much a video on the recording of that pretty much conversation that was on the radio, as you see here, which I'm gonna play. It's about 9 minutes long. And this author, he pretty much brings out great examples of why a child needs their biological father in the home, and to show you that we were pretty much, we went through those curses in the book of Deuteronomy, where it talks about how that the man shall leave the house. Okay, this destroyed our household, man. Not having a father in the home, and only having a mother raising up a child, man. Okay, a mother can only raise up a child to a certain age, but you need both the father and the mother figure in the household. When you have just a mother figure, that child will grow up to be messed up, man. Okay, and I'm just gonna stop talking, and I'll let you hear this conversation. But this is beautiful that I came across this, man. Okay.
Highly recommend it as a read. Earlier books, you will remember The Myth of Male Power, Why Men Are the Way They Are. Warren, you talk often about the importance of male role modeling, and in particular, the importance of dads. So if you've got toxic masculinity now marking the end of the male gender, what does this say about the traditional role of fathers?
Well, it really is very dangerous, because actually the problem with boys is not the problem with toxic masculinity. It is the problem with the lack of father role model, really the lack of biological father. I studied 63 countries all around the world, and found that in the 63 largest developed nations, boys were falling way behind girls, and way behind where they used to fall. Not only sperm count going down, but IQ going down. Boys doing worse in every single academic subject, and especially in reading and writing. And they are being much more likely to have ADHD, depression, suicide, being more likely to drop out of school, which led to usually not having a job in their early 20s, therefore becoming depressed and purposeless, being 66% more likely to move back in with their moms and dads than girls are, which it used to be the reverse of that. And so we are, seeing an enormous amount of problems. But that's the bad news. The good news is, among children, boys in particular, who have their biological fathers still involved with them, that's where those boys are doing better than they used to do, and not as well, but very close to as well as girls. Those are our future leaders. And so I was asking myself, what two things. One is, why is this the case? And found that boys in developed nations, there's more permission for divorce. Where there is divorce, there's a much greater likelihood that the children will not see their father as much as they used to. When they don't have this when they have this dad deprivation, if you will, that's when the boys get into problems and don't get brought up well. Second is that in the United States, and the statistic is similar to this in Canada, but in the United States, 53% of women under 30 who have children without being married. And so, some liberals would say, well, what's the problem with not being married? And here's the problem with not being married. The moms who have children without being married, there's usually three groups that they fall into. One is the children don't even know who their dad is. Number two is the children know who their dad is but see very little of him. Number three, the dad and mom are living together when the child is born, but among that group, only 40% see their father very much at all after the age of 3.5 to 4. And this is where we're having the problems. That is, the boy crisis resides where dads do not reside. So the next question I had to ask myself is, what's so important about the biological father? And I saw that, first, dads and moms have very significant differences in their parenting styles. Moms and dads both love children unconditionally, but the dads put conditions on their approval to a much greater degree, which is part of their way of unconditionally loving. So, for example, dads are far more likely to say, sweetie, you can't have your ice cream. Well, both moms and dads will say you can't have your ice cream until you finish your peas, and the children will, of course, test those boundaries. But the mother is far more likely to say after the child has X number of peas, okay, sweetie, I'll tell you what, have a few more peas and then you can have your ice cream, because mom doesn't want to get into a big fight over a few peas. And dad is much more likely to say, sorry, it's important to finish your, you can't have your peas until you finish your ice cream. And the kid will complain and call dad mean, and dad will just say, a deal is a deal, and you can continue to complain, and then there'll be no ice cream tomorrow night either. And so the kid with the father is far more likely to learn, I guess I have to focus on finishing the peas in order to get the ice cream, whereas with the mom, the child is much more likely to see, I can spot mom's weakness here, I can spot her sensitivity, I'll figure out a way of manipulating a better deal. And so the child raised predominantly by moms is far more likely to be manipulative. The child raised predominantly by dads is far more likely to be one that learns postponed gratification, that it can't have the ice cream until it finishes its peas. And therefore, children raised predominantly by dads are only 15% of them have ADHD, whereas children raised predominantly by moms, 30% of them have ADHD. And so you get a sense of some of the, and ADHD, one of the problems is that you can't finish your homework, you can't study for, you can't rehearse the drills that you need for the basketball team, you can't rehearse for the play, so you don't feel as good about yourself because you're failing at things, and teachers aren't praising you, they're criticizing you. And when it comes to girl-boy time, the girls aren't interested in going out with losers. And so there's a whole, and so therefore the boys turn to porn, or they turn to addiction to video games. And so these are some of the challenges that boys have when there's not a biological father involved.
Warren Farrell with us. Warren, unfortunately, time is never our friend. I have 1 minute. How did toxic masculinity and this idea that men are disappearing as a gender, how did this move from the intersectional feminist gender studies academics into the mainstream?
Because almost every university that first had women's studies taught this perspective of the world is ruled by a patriarchy in which men made the rules to benefit men at the expense of women, right, and not that the world was ruled by people who protected women and served their country and were willing to die earlier. And dads, yes, they made more money, but they made money at the expense of their own passion, because jobs that were jobs like engineering paid more than jobs like being an artist.
Warren, it's always good having you by. Appreciate you taking the time this morning, and continued success with the boy crisis.
Thank you very much. May I say that it's on sale today at Amazon, so if people are interested in buying The Boy Crisis, that they can get that there?
Outstanding. You just did, and I thank you for that. Warren Farrell, north of San Francisco, his writing, The Reason Why Men Are the Way They Are, The Myth of Male Power. He's written 7 books altogether. The newest one is The Boy Crisis, and sometimes he offends you when he lays out, and again, it's not an automatic cause and effect that this or that's going to happen, but he lays it out pretty clearly what the path is for certain boys underperforming and certain boys who don't, and many girls who do not underperform. So here was everybody who looked at this Gillette ad and said, this is weird. Avi Dawn, who writes for Forbes, says what makes the ad so offensive is Gillette doesn't just condemn bad behavior, something most men do as well. It implies that the vulgar behavior represents the norm among men. And in doing so, it smears an entire gender. Substitute another gender or another ethnic group in place of the word men in the ad, and you'll get a sense how outlandish this insight really is. And here's the one I missed too. This weird one, did you see where all the guys are in line behind their outdoor grills and they're looking macho and menacing and they're all barbecuing in a big line? Did you look to see what's on the barbecue? This ad agency is really woke. They're only grilling vegetables. There's no meat at all. And of course, Avi Dawn also points out, could you imagine, for a cliche or a screaming stereotype, imagine a group of women standing there in front of washing machines or ovens baking, like the group of guys does in front of their grills. Just work that one out. What would we say about that? You know what we'd say. But if you really want to depict men in this screaming stereotype of menacing gorillas in front of their grills, baby, they ain't grilling vegetables. God. They're even vegans. Hang on. So, toxic masculinity. That's my question. Is it a thing in the men you know and love? This is 650 CKOM and 980 CJME.
There you go, man, And with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Shai, Bashem Rokakudash, double honors to the apostles, and peace and mercy to you, Akim Shalom.